Hello, good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain.
Well, this is a week I'm particularly excited about. So it's a beautiful Monday morning here in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
We need to probe that.
Yes, please.
Amaya Makinde, good morning and welcome.
Well, yeah, Burkina Faso did a good job on Algeria, the defending champions.
We need to go to Abuja first.
That's the week.
What team are you supporting?
Guys, can you just
hold
your horses? Markway is Abuja. Come on, guys.
Sorry. It's football.
Oh, dear.
Gender sensitivity. Money, Markway.
Someone's enjoying this AFCON a little too much. But good morning from Abuja. Welcome. I'm Maokwe Yusuf.
Yes. I was trying to blackmail me. What has enjoying AFCON got to do with gender sensitivity?
I mean, it's football.
They enjoy football as
Even
well.
Markway knows a lot about football and enjoys football.
So that didn't work. Please try another one.
Well, I haven't even tried anything. I haven't even started. But that was a fun march, you know, that the Super Eagles had. I was, as you guys would know, I was watching In Between.
Oh, in between.
Because I was out, so I had a phone right in front of me. I was watching and looking away,
Trying to distract yourself.
in the interest of peace and stability.
Well, at least whichever one works. But you know, guys, there's this particular report that came through some time ago. Yeah. The Auditor General of the Federation, they do these audits with different agencies and government outlets time and again. So there was this one they did with the police concerning arms and ammunition. And then they say there are about 178,000 arms that have not been accounted for. So it raises big questions. Yeah. Look, even though they talk about the modus operandi of the Auditor General of the Federation, but the IGP is supposed to have responded to that. Haven't seen anything as of yet on that particular one. So questions raised as to what exactly is the current situation, because I don't imagine that the office of the IGP will agree with the Auditor General of the Federation, given how they operate. So members of the House of Reps, former police officers, they've all been speaking about this kind of scenario, saying, look, there may be questions to answer.
Absolutely. And, you know, this points to the process generally, because it's meant to be like a monthly report on these, you know, arms and ammunition, essentially. Clock in, clock out. I mean, this is something very important. Imagine AK-47 rifle, imagine pistols and other assorted rifles just not having any, you know, any tag or any trace on them, essentially. So they have that process of clocking and clocking out. And from the Auditor General's report, it seems over time, I think as of 2018, I mean, thousands of them. And this is broken down into AK-47 rifles, pistols, and the rest. And you get to listen to the views of some of these former police boss, because it's quite important to understand what may have happened. In fact, how about you take a listen, and we'll come back, shed more light on this.
The Nigerian police force is saddled with the responsibility of maintaining internal security throughout the country. With a staff strength of almost 400,000, there are plans currently to increase the number to 650,000 with the recruitment of 10,000 policemen annually. However, the challenges facing the force go beyond shortage of personnel. More importantly, is the availability of adequate operational tools, especially firearms. A recent report by the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation shows that about 178,459 different types of arms and ammunition got missing from the Nigeria Police Armory in 2019. According to the report, the audit spawned from three sources: the Arms Movement Register, monthly return of arms and ammunition, as well as the Ammunition Register. While slightly over 88,000 of this figure are reported to be AK-47 rifles, 3,907 are assorted rifles and pistols from different formations nationwide.
If such level of arms are meeting the police, it means they are going to wrong hands. And these guns could be used anyhow and anywhere. People are not safe. But what I do not really understand, the period is given when these arms got missing. But we're not told how they got missing. You know, Nigeria police, Nigeria as a whole, Nigeria so far has gone through very serious security challenges.
Although the relevant authorities appear silent about the alarming number of missing arms, experts say if the report is something to go by, the spate of insecurity across the country may become more worrisome.
It is very important to state that the appointment of an armorer in the Nigerian police force, you must know the kind of person you are appointing as your armorer. If I'm a DPO, whoever I'm going to appoint as my armorer, I must know his level of integrity, the kind of a person he is, and he must be appointed in writing.
There are many sources of missing arms and ammunition. If you can see, you know what happened in Imo State, in other states of the country, whereby police are attacked. The bandit will go to the police station, attack the policeman, and the policemen sometimes they will abandon the arms because they are looking for the safety of their life.
With the audit report already submitted at the National Assembly, the relevant committees, upon resumption of the lawmakers, may have to analyze the report and ask questions that will throw more light into the findings by the Auditor General's office.
Well, that's the stories. It's very difficult not to stop perusing the papers. But that's basically what we're looking at, accountability, especially for arms and ammunition. And if anyone has followed our history in terms of how we've dealt with our armory, even the armory of the military, which seems to be pretty strict in terms of how its personnel handle weapons and the accountability processes that involves the keeping of weapons, there are still usually huge questions as to how some of these equipment get into the wrong hands. I'll give you a case in point. All you have to do is read this book, Power, Politics and Death, by Mr. Olusegun Adeni, former spokesperson of late President Erdogan. Now, don't forget that during the Erdogan government, there was a huge crisis in the Niger Delta where I think the production of petroleum in the Niger Delta dropped to as low as about 700,000 barrels per day. When we're supposed to be doing about 1.5, 1.8 million barrels per day. And the president had to institute an amnesty program whereby militants were encouraged to come and drop their arms in exchange for amnesty, for a presidential amnesty. And I think that everybody was a little, worried as to the number of arms which were submitted by this militants. Much later, we saw that people started bringing in all manner of things that did not quite count as arms. But the initial submission of arms surrendered by these militants would shake the military of any country. Much later, it was revealed that these arms actually came from the armory of the military. So I don't know. It's a good thing that this report is out there. The Auditor General has done its work. I do not think that what we should be getting from the police is denial. What they really need to do is investigate amongst their own ranks what is happening and see how they can put tighter controls on arms, on the armory of the Nigeria police. Let's not forget that we've been talking about the proliferation of small arms and light weapons for a while now. And oftentimes when we talk about this problem, we're talking about it from the perspective of Libya. Oh, we have porous borders. Oh, Libya came under fire the other time, or they're no longer quite a state that they used to be. And as such, all of the arms from that conflict is coming downwards into West Africa, etc. But what about what is happening on the inside? Have we been able to put a lead on it and ensure that there is serious accountability for the arms that is provided for our own, not just military services, but also our police service? Every single organization now, NSCDC, is carrying arms as well. I mean, are we sure that the accountability processes there too are watertight? These are some of the questions that we need to ask and answer, and I'm hoping that denial will not be the way we go about answering them. Gentlemen.
Well, yes, Malkwe, and looking at those figures, they're staggering. I mean, we say, how much policemen do we have in Nigeria? Was it 300,000? Is it 250,000? Not all of them carry arms, by the way. Some of them, we're making that joke, are not mobile. as it were. They're not part of the mobile force, as it were. But let's be honest. If we say that 178,000 arms are missing, 88,000 are AK-47, that's staggering. Honestly, I do not want to believe that, because if 88,000 AK-47 rifles are missing, I mean, we will know on the street. So maybe this is a case of not clocking in and clocking out properly. This is a case of not accounting for these arms properly. I'm not saying that maybe, I mean, there aren't missing arms, but I mean, that quantum of 78,000 or 178,000 rather is something I think that the police needs to address.
Well, one way that the police had addressed that in time past was to deny. We hope that it's not going to be the same thing this time. I remember in when the similar report came out in December 2016 and 2017, and between December 2016 and May 2017, that report revealed that at least 44 assorted arms were missing, belonging to the Nigerian, not missing, could not be accounted for between 2013 and 2015. And what did we hear from the police spokesperson at the time? I quote, "No police weapon was lost in the first place, so there was no way police-owned guns could have ended up with criminals." That was 2013. That was between 2016 and 2017. Are we going to hear the same thing this time around? And I sincerely hope not. Let there be some correlation, because if government must work, the agencies must work. And I think that's what's important here. So we have the Auditor General's report coming up with this. Are we going to treat this report of the Auditor General's report of the Auditor General's office as we have treated similar Auditor General's reports?
Well, look, it appears as though there are operational issues. And so the DIG in charge of operations, who supervises this, I think the armory, between them himself and the IGP, this report has been a while out there. It's not the first of the reports for this kind of scenario, just that this appears really huge. So who knows, because some behind the scenes tell you, well, the Auditor General people came, they were in a hurry to put out the report, they had to do something real quick, so if we didn't clock in and clock out properly, well, they had to do this, and then we're supposed to explain much later what is going on with that explanation. And so why do we always have this kind of scenario where these arms are unaccounted for? Can we improve the method of clocking in and clocking out and accounting for some of those things, such that you don't necessarily alarm the country, assuming that were the case? Because nobody will see this report and think everything is okay. No. So it's something that they need to address and not sweep under the carpet, yes. As you suggest. So whatever the issues are, that is a huge figure. So we'll be keeping tabs on that and hoping response comes from the IGP's office, if it hasn't already. Well, that said, let's delve into some of the dailies today. We'll start with Nigerian Tribune this morning. Well, guys, I think for a while, we'll have to get used to it. There has to be a lot of politicking on the front pages of the dailies.
You said for a while?
Stand corrected.
Well, for a while, yeah. Maybe just a year.
Okay. Just a year. This is what, January? Well,
it's going to be long, just a year, I tell you.
Because February will be elections.
Wow.
Well, look at Tribune. Convention, how APC may decide presidential chairmanship aspirants' fate. Plans 4,509 delegates. I mean, they had that meeting late into the night yesterday. The PDP themselves, the governors also having their own meeting and seeing what is going on. Wait. What about the young people? I hope they're meeting somewhere too.
Well,
strategize it.
We've been seeing some, even though you wonder, how do you define young people these days? But anyway, we've been seeing some of them throw their hats into the ring, as it were. But coming together,
I hope it's not like a
tree
tree-like kind of thing, because you know what, the tree and the forest kind of scenario.
So we're still waiting to see the coming together. I mean, if you bring the Twitter army, as it were.
Most of the time
Twitter
when you
army.
hear...
There's no polling booth on Twitter.
No, that's what I'm saying. You need to bring them.
The army.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry. Don't forget it's a mobilization, what's it called? Street.
Mobilization street.
Yeah. Well, it's good you have a Twitter handle. They might come for you after this, so good luck.
Is that somebody's name, or I'm just saying?
Well. This is the lead story you see here. And then above this, speaking about corruption, look at this quote. We were saints compared to today's politicians, IBB. Guys, remember they talked about billions of dollars those days? So everyone talking about, they were saints those days compared to now.
Well, part of what I think we also have that story somehow. It says when they were in government, he queried, or did he say he sacked a governor for misappropriating 300,000 naira. But today, 2 billion, 3 billion gets missing and no one bats an eyelid.
But we're thumping our chests that we're fighting corruption, we're allocating funds, we're saying we're doing well. And then you see this comment?
Please, what happened?
Is this a reality check, really?
What has happened to the audit bill? It's a strong tool for fighting corruption.
Well, speaking about security, look at that at the bottom strip. Buhari orders military action in Niger. Gunmen abduct 28, 3 feared kill. We paid over 200 million naira ransom to bandits, but have no peace, Zamfara community alleges. Guys, 200 million naira to
That's huge.
bandits.
That's huge.
Do we even know what these bandits are doing with this kind of money? Has anybody bothered to ask?
Well, one thing is it's encouraging them to do more.
Because assuming this is 200 million really happened, this is just the ones they can account for. Because of course, you know, not everybody will come forward and give proper account of this.
And this is the one that has come out.
And someone did tell me, some traders and marketers who deal with goods, commodities, they say they pay tax to buy. Guys, look, there's a lot happening. That's Tribune this morning.
Well, let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper for you this morning. The focus is on politics as well, so we might as well get used to it. And it's on convention. 16 APC governors in Make or Mar meeting. Page 5 of the paper. No stampeding APC into wrong moves. CECPC adds, we must avoid PDP's mistakes, self-destruction. A host of other writers on that, and you know, recall Chemelin referenced that particular meeting earlier on. Well, the meeting has since ended, and the Kebbi State Governor actually briefed journalists saying that they passed a vote of confidence on the caretaker committee of the party and the rest. So the build-up
backstory about that,
absolutely,
about that meeting, though.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely be giving you more insight into that. But it's a page 5 read of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And you see, respond to killings, kidnappings in Niger. Buhari orders military, page 7. I hear there's a big one now, big operation underway. So we see, and you wonder, Niger is not a state you usually hear regarding that one. I mean, you know about Zamfara, Katsina, Kaduna, and the rest. So clearly we need to get a handle on this one. Page 7, and let me just take Mr. and Mrs. For the culture. You see Mr. saying to Mrs., things are not working the way they used to be. For example, women no longer open their hearts like the days of our forefathers. But Mrs., not having any of that, says, well, that's because men no longer open their wallets like the days of our forefathers. So, over to you, men. If it's not your wallet or e-wallet, at least your ATM. Well, there's sports on the back page. You see the Eagles saying, we fear no foe. I must be honest, maybe I'm biased, but I think the Super Eagles is one of the best, names you can give a team. Eagle, high up there. No, you know what? That's a Vanguard for you.
Well, you can say that now, and thankfully we all can. Let's
At
flip
the moment,
to.
right.
It's the same politics on the front page of the Leadership newspaper this morning, but a tiny bit of a different tangent to it. More interested in the electoral bill. 398 days to go. Pressure mounts on PMB, National Assembly, to pass electoral bill. That's the lead of the Leadership newspaper this morning. Stories on page 4. Governors not afraid of direct primaries, says Sule. The people should have power to choose reps. Nigeria needs new law before polls, Jega says. Expunge direct primary clause, IPAC. Provisions in new bill are pro-people. It's coming from the NBA. More of that you'll find on page 4.
And that's part of the, discussions at the town hall yesterday, essentially.
Yeah.
It was a quite interesting one, I must say.
Oh, most certainly. I just hope that there was some perspective for the young people as well. Don't say anything. Right under the picture you see on the front page, disquiet in APC over fresh plot to extend convention date beyond February. Thought this was done and dusted.
Well, I think that's the latest, actually, saying that the date will be announced tomorrow. That's January the 18th, I guess so. Latest.
That's the leadership newspaper this morning. Markwe.
Well, Daily Trust has this on the front page. Leakages continue despite TSA implementation. That's a lead story. How agency heads, civil servants bypass system. Federal government sets up review committee. Why government should strengthen TSA. Page 5 will give you details. Buhari orders massive military operation in Niger. Hard times for tenants as landlords hike rent in Lagos. I was going to say just come to Abuja, but I don't know whether this story has also taken into cognizance what is happening elsewhere. Pomp as Machina Emirate holds cultural festival. That's also on page 6 of the paper. Look at this. Shortage of lecturers hit polytechnics. That's also on the front page. And then you have a number of other stories. Hundreds flee as bandits attack Kaduna village. Insecurity. We've spent 100 million naira on ransom. Vigilantes. Zamfara community cries out. So that's also on the front page as well. And just in case you need a little more perspective to the story on Zamfara, it's very hard to ignore that advert on the front page, but at least you can see it where it is. But if you want a little more perspective on it, there is an opinion on the back page explaining the complexities. It's called banditourism. I don't know what term that is, but I'm sure this is about bandits and what fuels the conflict, or shall I say the problems of insecurity in the northwest of the country, particularly in Zamfara and environs. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust newspapers.
Okay, take a look at the New Telegraph. Then they also talk politics this morning. How PDP plans to exploit defection cases against APC. Let's say it's subscribed to investigation. So you assume that will be from the New Telegraph this morning. So, yeah. Beneath that, you see aviation, foreign carriers ravaging Nigeria's domestic markets. Experts kick against multiple destinations. Turkish to resume PH route March 28. So, there you go. That's New Telegraph today.
Well, Mark, let me do you one back. I'll take the Abuja Inquirer. Recall that story you took was about Lagos. So, the Abuja Inquirer is next with the lead. FCT area councils may go moribund if, wonder why, FCTA bullying us. AMAC chair alleges they seized our 700 million naira. Who's saying that? Well, more details on the inside pages. And that picture, of course, shows the vice president paying a visit to the family of the late Ernest Shonekan yesterday. There's, of course, that update on the new polio variant, FCTA in race against time, as well as other stories on the front page of the Abuja Inquirer.
Well, that same picture is on the front page of the Daily Times newspaper this morning. And right under the picture, you see Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Governors not against direct primary. We want options. Ascribed to Governor Sule. More problems will be created if we adopt direct primary now. Ascribed to former INEC chairman. That's right there on the front page of the Daily Times newspaper. And right under the page, Senate investigates NDLEA over unbudgeted 200 million naira security vote. NDLEA security vote, 200 million naira. Those are the highlights. That's the Daily Times newspaper this morning.
Look at The Guardian. Nigeria rations 2,500 megawatts over vandalization of gas-fired plants. Olorun Shogo, Aloji, Giregu, Sapele, Motosho, Uheli plants hit. Nigeria to cut metering gap by 50%, reduce tariff. Presidency says, did you say you heard that before? Well, Review of privatization, liquidity crisis, experts canvas. So all of that packed there.
Isn't vandalism like an act of terrorism at this rate? I mean, if you're holding the nation back, and this has been happening for years, so...
There you go. But look at this piece, don't miss this one. NCC alerts Nigerians to new ransomware attacking organizational networks. So pay attention to that because, you know, don't be penny wise, pound foolish. Now,
Absolutely.
that's the Guardian. Okay, there you go. That wraps it up. But look at some of the dailies as well today. Just give us a moment because we will be back. Welcome back. Well, yes, we're talking about, well, not just elections, but the build-up to elections, those who are supposed to organize and ensure the credibility of elections. It's right up there. Well, there are concerns at the moment. I mean, there's several reports, really, as to the resident electoral commissioners, some of them who will be exiting, some national commissioners. What is the current position? So if the tenure lapses, are there plans to ensure that either they renew or get other people in? So all of those are scenarios that lots of people are just raising questions about. So we've got Mr. Chukwuma Izala here with us. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, this scenario which is going on at the moment, some say they're concerned about it. Is it really something that we should be concerned about, and to what degree?
You see, unfortunately, today we don't have the Electoral Act to use for the elections. It's still there, there's still politics going on. And people say that...
But the old one is still there.
Yes, the old one is still there, but it is because of the problems we have in the old one. That is why we are talking about getting the new one to address some of the challenges we have. Some people say that democracy is a game of numbers. But is it really a game of numbers? When people can manufacture numbers. You know, we remember what happened in Anambra State when one of the candidates manufactured 200 and something thousand to win the primaries. And at the end of it all, people that voted, the entire parties did not get up to 200 and something thousand.
Well, I don't know about manufacturing.
So it's no longer a game of numbers. It's never a game of numbers. It's a game of numbers and accountability. You must account for how you got the numbers, and that is why we need credible people in INEC. Now, we have crises in many African countries today. We have in Zambia, we have in Mali. These are all election-related crises, and these are issues of accountability. So the question becomes, what should the president do? I think at this stage, since we have just 6 months into the elections, yes, the election is February, but the actual preparation is between now and June, July. So I think the president should withdraw the list he had sent to the National Assembly and give people with experience.
Why should he withdraw the list?
Now, the list contains people that may not have worked in the electoral team before. We are now, not that they cannot go and learn, but is this the period that we can go and learn? The answer is no. It's very important, and if Nigeria joins the group that are entering into election crisis, then we are gone. So, because the electoral law has been delayed, because we are not starting early enough, the best thing now is to say who did it well.
So if I understand you right, those who their tenure will be lapsing in 2022, the president has sent a list of new people to replace them, and you think that those people who, with due respect to them, who are on that list shouldn't actually be. You want the president to retain some of the people who are currently there because you say they've got experience. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, sure, sure. Take, for instance, Professor Ibano. Professor Ibano has been doing well. He was also special assistant, technical assistant to Professor Jega, whose election we have continued to say is a bit okay. We also have somebody like Professor Kuna, who also assisted at that time. We have some of the resident electoral commissioners that have done wonderfully well in their own areas. You have people like Mr. Mike Igin that should have gone in as a national officer. You have Mr. Sadiq, who is REC of Sokoto, who should also have gone in. And why can't we have these people into the system? When you look at the background on where they are coming from. Yes.
Perhaps one of the questions to ask is, what exactly are how crucial are the functions of the National Commissioner of INEC? Many people can easily, identify the role of a Mike Igini because of some of the things that we've heard about him. But what are the functions of a National Commissioner, and how is that so crucial to the election?
They are the people that plan and decide how the election will be. Look at Anambra State. We were about to have crisis in Anambra State, and Professor Ibano was detailed to go to Anambra State. And that's the only reason why you saw Anambra State coming out very okay and people very satisfied. Simply because Professor Ibano took over and did it. Remember that they supervised the REC. 12 of them, they make policies, they take decisions. If there are problems, they take better decisions that will assist. If there are issues of interpretation, now we have a lot of political parties, especially the major political parties that are in crisis. The ruling party today, the leader of the ruling party, President Muhammad Buhari, had informed them that if they don't take time, they may lose the elections. So it means that the ruling party is having very serious crisis in itself. Once you have credible people who can account, who will be accountable to the number of votes that will come out, you see everybody will sit up. It's no longer a question of people trying to field people that cannot win elections and believe that they can manufacture numbers. This is why we need Nigeria at this stage. We need Mr. President to look at it so that he will not be the president that will preside over a crisis-ridden Nigeria. He will not be a president that will be the last president of a united Nigeria. Nigeria is in crisis. Almost all the states are in flames. And what do you do to restore confidence in the system? During the time of President Jonathan, there was brewing of crisis. And what happened? President Jonathan decided to say, let the votes count. And he brought Professor Jega. And he brought some others, including Igili and others, to say, okay, let's have people from the civil society. And all of them came. And the tension was a bit down. And we had the elections, and there wasn't. And the sitting president had to call President Buhari and say, congratulations, because of the credibility of people that conducted the election, not necessarily of the laws, but of the people, the integrity of the people who are conducting the election. Why can't we do it now?
Well, let's toss to Abuja and get more perspective on the same matter. Markwe.
Thank you, Chamberlain. We have with us Mr. Samaila Musa, who is a National Coordinator, Grassroots Mobilization Initiative, and also a part of the Coalition of Northern Groups. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a little, I don't know, it's a little befuddling. It is true that some of the tenures of the national commissioners are coming to an end. But it does seem that, this story we're seeing going all over the place about the president not reappointing some national commissioners who have served the commission well. Why is there worry? Because some people will say that Nigeria has a huge pool of people with integrity. Why is there a clamor of some sort for the retainment of commissioners who are said to have done well?
Yeah, it's actually a source of worry. It's a source of concern to virtually every well-meaning Nigerian. If just about a year to election, we're here debating whether to retain or not to retain, people who have done incredibly well. Now, we're talking about election amendment bill. That has not been settled yet, And there's so many conspiracy theories around that to say, oh, well, some godfathers somewhere, some persons who felt, you know, the voice of the people shouldn't be heard. Some persons who are feeling, look, by the time the people start dictating the tide of the elections or who occupies what position, then we are actually threatened. It's actually at that same time, because, I mean, the whole thing about the electoral amendment bill is about credible elections. Is that at that particular time that we're beginning to mark some persons out in INEC, some persons who have lived above board, some persons who have actually proven to Nigerians, you know, that it's really possible. I mean, we can actually get to our promised land, because it's about deciding the outcome of elections. And these people have actually stood the test of time. You know, even though there are instances where some of them, where you think, oh, he who pays the piper dictates the tune, you know, they might want to dance to the tune of the ruling party. They acted based on what they felt is right. So it's not at this kind of time, with the way the whole country is, because Nigeria has never been at the verge of a precipice like we have at this time. So it's not really at this kind of time that you really want to start bringing in the bad baggage of people who we don't even know yet. You understand? People who are already perceived that they are actually coming in. Most of them are actually nominated by APC stalwarts. They are not coming in because, you see, when you have people who are much interested in the outcome of the election, or people who are actually going to participate in the election, are still the same people who are, you know, dictating who make it to, I mean, who is going to be the electoral umpires is really, really worrisome. And that's why quite a lot of people are getting worried that perhaps this whole thing is just carried.
Do we know that for sure?
Well, you see, the point we're making is, of course, nobody is indispensable. You understand? Nigeria has a pool of, you know, people of integrity, credible people, and all of that. But you see, there's so much on ground already. When you have so much at stake in terms of what's going to happen in 2023, already there are questions, because the way APC is going about it, everybody is feeling maybe they have something they're planning, you know, because when your body language doesn't seem to say you really want to conduct a credible election. So at that same time, you're bringing this kind of joker to say, well, we're going to change these people. There are people in INEC that you feel, look, let us begin to set good precedents to say, to stand for what is right, to stand for integrity really pays in the long run. Maybe perhaps after 2023, because Buhari himself is also a product of people standing for what is right. And most of these people who are actually going out now oversaw the election that brought him in, even though, you know, we had a sitting president that they will have acted otherwise. So, and that is why there's so much on ground now to be considered to say, look, for now, we see so many lacunas in the electoral amendment bill, or rather, we see so many loopholes, and that's why people are making inputs. The National Assembly had spoken because they listened to their constituents to say, well, we need to do this, we need to do that to make sure that we have credible elections. So is that not at that kind of time that you're injecting new people that we don't even know what they stand for? Where they're coming from is actually questionable. The people who are nominating them, there are big question marks on them. Yeah, what is your interest?
There are. I mean, some people say that this is totally within the president's right. He reserves the prerogative to appoint new people or to retain those who are there. And let us not forget that. Let us assume, for instance, that the tenure of those people, I think you have a maximum of 2 terms, which you can do, and that's it. Yeah. So assuming they had done the maximum of 2 terms and it was close to an election year, would we be saying, oh, Mr. President, you cannot bring new people at the eve of, you know, a year to a general election because the legacy which you want to leave of credible elections will be at stake? Isn't it entirely his prerogative?
No, nobody's actually taking that away from him. The actual issue we should be talking about now is it possible for their tenures to be extended? You understand? So if they say, oh, it's his prerogative to retain, to actually bring in new people, it's also his prerogative to look into it and say, well, because these people have lived above board, and we're trying to, because you see, this whole credible election is actually an institutional thing. Forget about, of course, you have pockets of incidences here and there where overzealous staffs, down the chain of command in INEC who will want to act otherwise. But when you have people at the top who actually are standing right, people who are actually doing the right thing, sometimes you want them to stay longer, such a way that they have ample time to actually pass down. Because you see, sometimes when the institution, the leadership is getting it right, when they have ample time to actually foist that same thing on the chain of leadership, it becomes more or less like a culture. You understand? So people already get used to it over time. As a matter of fact, when Jiga was leaving, because of what he did, so many people were feeling he should have stayed and even oversee another election. You understand? So there are people in INEC that we shouldn't just let go at this kind of time. The polity is already overheated. So you really want some sane people to remain in INEC such a way that, because the confidence has already, people have so much confidence in INEC now over time. That wasn't just one particular election that proved that. We've seen so many elections that actually came to play. And that's why the confidence level was, a bit boosted to this level that we're having now. It's not at this kind of time that you want to erode the confidence people already built in INEC. You just allow time, let the system really permeate through the ranks and file in INEC before you begin to make this kind of changes. Especially there are people who have acted exceptionally well, people who have returned monies, people who have shown that, look, it's not everybody. We still have sane people in Nigeria. You really want to retain those kind of people to stay longer in the system. That's what the point we're making.
Well, Chairman, I'm just wondering, for those who are, doing this, who exercise these fears, is there great ground for them to, exercise the fears that it's a little too late in the day to be changing national commissioners? I don't know what our guest in Lagos will have to say about that.
You can go ahead and respond to that. I'm sure you heard it.
Yeah, yes, I heard him. Take, for instance, the issue of whether some of their tenures have expired or whether they can be renewed. Professor Ibano really can be renewed because he still can go the second tenure. That is one. Now, when you look at the issue of Mr. Mike Igine, who is a resident electoral commissioner, now, usually when somebody passes election or when somebody passes in another class, exams rather, he is promoted. So he was rec, and we could see the type of work he had done in Edo State. The only time APC was able to win an election in 2011, rather. Now, 2015. He was able to, when we had stalemate in Imo State, on 2 occasions he went there and rescued it, and people said, yes, the election was conducted very well. In Calabar, the same thing. Now, you have, and he, sometimes after elections, he returns money, unused money. Mr. Sadiq from Sokoto, a resident electoral commissioner too, he also returns money, and when they wanted to rig election in Sokoto, he was able to stop it. These are people, if they have stayed 2 tenures as resident electoral commissioner, you should be able to promote them as national commissioners. And it's not a question of whether the president has the prerogative to appoint. The president is representing us. The president is representing Nigerians. And the president swore to uphold the wishes of Nigerians. So if these people have done well, what should the president do? The next thing is to reappoint them, either as national commissioners, but to retain them, especially, not that there are people, not that we don't have people that are better than them, but do we start testing new people at this stage? The answer is no.
Well, we know about, political campaigns and the rest. We started off the show saying that we're in the season, but it sounds to me as though you're even campaigning now, INEC campaign. Are you campaigning for these people?
I'm campaigning for Nigerians. I'm campaigning that Nigeria should remain united.
But you're particular about the names.
No, I'm particular about the names because these are the names that have been thrown up. Like when I say Sadi, when I say Professor Ibano, you look at what Professor Ibano did in Anambra State. When we talk about what Jega did, am I campaigning for them? when people have done well, you campaign for such people to be retained. If we have people that have done as good as them, yes, there are still many of them there, you retain them. But if you say, oh, don't mention names, Mr. President may not know. Some of us belong to the civil society, so we watch INEC, we look at what they do, we look at some of them that are doing well, we look at the type of things that are being thrown out. So why won't you mention names? We should mention names of those that didn't do well, and we should also mention names of those that did well. Otherwise, we're not doing good to the system.
Now, that's on the one hand. Now, you referenced the people...
For instance, I've not met many of them,
right,
but we read them.
Of course. So you talked about some of the nominees of the president, and you said that he should withdraw those nominees. And I wonder, aren't you just unfairly preempting these people to think that they will not be capable to handle either a national commissioner role or a rec role? Isn't that unfair preempting?
No, look at what I'm saying. What I am saying at this stage is that where we are today, if they were being nominated 2 years ago, in which case they will start learning or will start knowing who they are. That's a different thing. But the point is that this is injury period. You don't, during the play, when you are playing, like when Nigeria was playing, and Nigeria, maybe, for instance, a country is down, two goals down, and you start removing the players that are playing well to bring in new people that will start learning the opponents. Do you understand? That is the issue. The issue is not a question of whether those people are going to do well. The issue is that some people have experience. If you enter a system, you start learning those people first. You start learning the staff. You start understanding the staff. You start understanding those that are fraudulent. But some of these people are already in the system, so they know those that are fraudulent among them. They know how to, just like, let me give you an example. Sibanu, for instance, went to Anambra State. Anambra State was already a state-managed place, if you ask people that were around. But when he was brought there, because he knew this staff, by virtue of experience for 4 years, 5 years in the system. So he was able to checkmate those that wanted to rig elections in Anambra.
Wasn't that an indictment on the resident electoral commission at that time?
Now, the resident electoral commissioner is one person. He will need many other people. He will need supervisor. Normally, when you have election in only one place, there are so many interests. The party interests, the political parties, all the political big stalwarts will be in that area. There will be a lot of local governments where they will plan to do something.
Well,
now,
you cited the example, my apologies, you cited the example of Mr. Igini. He is also a resident electoral commissioner.
Yes. No, why I cited his own example, I said, just like Mr. Sadiq, I also cited.
Yes.
Like, for instance, why I cited them is that we have seen what they have done, like Mr. Igini, for instance.
My point here is, the question my colleague asked you,
Yes.
you're citing certain specific names.
Yes.
You know, some people who have served as national commissioners, and you said that Professor Ibano went as national commissioner to Anambra.
Yes.
It is an indictment, wouldn't you say, on the resident electoral commissioner at the time, who couldn't do what you are praising Mr. Sadiq and Mr. Igini for doing?
Anyway, you know, people are differently talented. People are differently talented. So, like for these people, if you go to INEC cycle, you will understand what I am saying. They are highly talented. And not just the two of them that I've mentioned. Now, when you look at AVM, for instance, AVM was who is also not being reappointed. Go there, you see that he's also integrity personified. And these names, it's very unfortunate that maybe the resident electoral commission in Anambra State is not among the names that are being thrown up as one of the best in INEC. And his tenure is also not threatened. But we're talking about those people that people have identified, that INEC itself had identified to use them. We have 12 electoral commissioners. And Ibanu was choosing to go to Anambra State. Ibanu worked with Professor Jega. So INEC has confidence in him. And the same thing, INEC has confidence in some of these resident electoral commissioners that when there are crises, these are the people that they will use. So why are you now dropping them?
I wonder if you see this challenge now, because if you say that it has to be these set of people or things wouldn't work, don't you think that, I appreciate that we need to appreciate the work they have done, which is understandable. If people do good, you need to commend them and reward them so you can encourage that kind of culture. But if you say that if these people are not chosen, then our electoral system will not work. Isn't that a problem? Shouldn't we have a system that will work regardless of whether one person chooses to, impugn or malign that system? Shouldn't we be focusing on making the system itself work rather than giving too much power to either a rec or a national commissioner who can then decide the outcome of an election?
Now, remember, I was speaking in context. The context is that the election is just 6-7 months away. Now, bringing new people, just like sending me there, I'll start learning. I may be the most brilliant person, or sending you you may be the most brilliant person in Nigeria. But the point is, you will take 2-3 months to understudy people that are already there, to understand the fraudulent, because you know it's Nigeria. Even in America, you have a lot of fraudulent people too. So when new persons come in, first is to learn the system, wherever you are. And that is why we said we have entered the injury time. Having entered the injury time, why are you dropping people who can be extended? Why are you dropping people whose tenure, rather, why are you dropping people who we have already tested? There may be more angels outside, but is this the right thing at this stage? And I am not saying that if you don't take them, Nigeria will collapse. I have not said that. But what I have said is that this is what we know. You go from the known to the unknown. You don't go from the unknown to the known. And who, just like my colleague in Abuja said, who nominated these new people? These are party stalwarts. These are APC
the old people though?
No, party also nominated the old people, but they have proven themselves. But these ones, you don't know whether they are going to prove themselves. So now, which one is the lesser evil? To go for the ones you know, or to go for the ones you don't know? Which one is the lesser evil?
Well, I guess you'll explain to us when we return in just a moment then, so don't go away. Welcome back. Well, you know, this appears to be playing itself out again, because we know this was how Jega came up. Because at that time, Nigerians, even the opposition, they yelled and said, no, we didn't want who you have there already, because we wanted people who were credible, people who we think would do a job. And that type of Jega came through. Now, we're saying almost the same thing. How do we address this? Because tomorrow, who knows, we may be in a similar scenario. So shouldn't we, as my colleagues did say, ensure that, look, these are the kind of people we require to fit into this kind of system, such that we don't always have to leave it to the discretion of somebody, or even if we have to, it should be at least glaring and obvious that, yes, even though whoever is expressing or exercising his or her discretion, it appears credible to a lot of people.
In 2011 to 2015, a lot of Nigerians were shouting. Political parties, APC was in the forefront to say who should be in INEC. Unfortunately, PDP is not doing that work now. Maybe they are scared that once they mention any name, those names will be disqualified. You know, the system we have now is a system that Nigerians are surprised at what they are seeing. It's no longer what they preached in 2015 that is taking place today. And the question initially was, what is the lesser evil? The lesser evil is to look at INEC, to look within, and find out those that did this work in 2015 that are still standing, that do not have much skeletons in their cupboard, and have the competence. It's not a question of so much of integrity as an individual. It's also the competence to do, the zeal and the fearless system of doing something, you know. So if you are the type, take for instance, you know, when I mentioned my friend will say I'm campaigning for something. A recent electoral commissioner was able to put people on the dock to try a professor for rigging an election in Akwa Ibom. So what do you say about that? Are you saying he's campaigning for him? And when you also look at the fact that the new people you're bringing in, we don't know where the last time it was my sister Onochie. And you would say, let us try her. Would you say, let us try her? Even if she's the best of the angels, you know Nigerians will not want it, because this is an umpire.
Mr. Sal, one of the questions, I'd like to ask this question of Mr. Musa in Abuja. One of the questions that, you know, has seemingly been raised as a result of this conversation we are having is that it would seem like the INEC Establishment Act didn't preempt a succession system where, okay, those who have served as maybe resident electoral commissioner after some time will be able to say, hey, you should be able to serve as a national commissioner, having served as a resident electoral commissioner for 1 or 2 terms. Do you think that is something that could have been considered or should be considered going forward?
Okay, can you take that question again? Because I actually lost you at some point.
Okay, well, you found me here now. I'm just wondering, from where you sit and your perspective, it would seem like the INEC Establishment Act didn't quite foresee a succession system where people who have been in the system for a number of years, for a period, whatever it may be specified in the INEC Establishment Act, should be the ones to be thrown up as national commissioners so that the system can be stronger. Do you think that is something that should have been considered or should be considered going forward?
Yeah, that should have been considered, you know, it should be a thing to be considered. But of course, it also depends on the integrity of those people. Because if you have a resident electoral commissioner who hasn't lived above board, who hasn't actually proven to Nigerians that he is a man of integrity, actually, I do not see any reason why such individuals should be promoted. You understand? Because perhaps what he couldn't do as a resident electoral commissioner, he will be able to do it as a commissioner. So really, it's something that needs to be looked into holistically. There should be rooms to say, well, for those who have exceptionally done well, of course, there should be room for promotions, and there should be rooms for people to be booted out when they have not actually, because integrity should actually be a word that shouldn't be missing. No matter how intelligent you are in INEC, if you are not a man of integrity, if you're not a man that stands for what is right, because the whole system about this electioneering thing is actually going to be thrown into the garbage if we don't have credible people to actually man positions. So really, it should be open. Yeah, there should be a succession plan in place. And because if over time, if people actually see it in such a way that, oh, it's not just the succession plan that is most important, but how you behave or your conduct actually also matters. You know, you can actually be a resident electoral commissioner and not be promoted based on this and that fact that has actually whatever dossier that is you know, gathered against you. So that will really put people on their toes. But of course, sometimes you cannot give what you don't have. When you have people who are not credible, who are not people of integrity in place, they always just be pretending to have it, because you don't have. If you don't have it, really, there's nothing anybody that can actually do. Nobody can force it on you to become. What we
Mr.
are
just
going to be getting
one
over
thing
time
that also plays up on my
pretense.
mind. My apologies. One thing that also plays up from what you have said now is, while on the one hand, as you said, there is no preemption of a succession system, you know, especially in INEC, how then do we checkmate those who are not performing as creditably as they're expected to perform, given some of the things that Mr. Isele has said here? Do we always have to wait for their tenures to end?
Say that again.
Do we always have to wait for their tenures to end before they are shown the door?
No, yeah, of course we shouldn't wait. I mean, if I don't know what the act in INEC says about this, you know, the people who they're recruiting, but in the same manner that we shouldn't wait for people who have not acted well or who have not done well, credibly well, you know, the same way they should be treated is the same way people who have actually done credibly well, there should be some provision in whatever acts they have in INEC to say, based on your performance, based on what you stand for, you know, there's also a room for your tenure to be extended beyond just the 2-term limit.
Okay, so let me ask you what the fears really are. Has there been anything in the past that happened that makes this sort of agitation important?
Well, there are so many things that happen, but I'll give you the recent one, like my friend in Lagos, you know, just mentioned, is people already feeling if what you couldn't succeed through Loretta or Noche is what you're bringing another, you know, in another way. Because I do not see the logic behind someone, not just a card-carrying member of the APC, someone who have defended the party at almost every fora, someone who speaks for the party, someone who speaks for the president in some occasions. It's if the party or the presidency have the effrontery to present such people to come and be an election umpire in the same election that APC is going to participate in, then it throws a lot of questions in the air. You understand? So really, this recent one actually shows that, well, we're already seeing it playing out. If, in spite of all the agitations that, oh, no, we all know who Loretta Onoche is, she's not hidden. You understand? This is for someone who have actually spoken in defense of the party. You're bringing her to INEC as what? To come and do what? Is she going to act otherwise against the interests of the APC? No, is the question.
But some people will argue that the National Assembly was able to do what it needed to do, and she wasn't confirmed as a national commissioner.
Yes.
So shouldn't we trust the National Assembly to be able to do the needful with a new set of people if they are not the appropriate people that should be appointed for such positions?
Well, you see, sometimes the National Assembly also needs to be put on its toes. Just like what happened with this electoral amendment bill. What I thought is INEC will put its foot, National Assembly will put its foot on the ground to tell the president that, sir, the people who sent us here, we are not appointees of the president. The people who sent us here, they have spoken. Whether what they say is right or wrong, we don't know what to go back home to go and tell them. This needs to be done. But what we saw instead is that, it's all a script written somewhere that's just playing out. So
with regards to what?
With the regards to the electoral amendment bill, you understand? And that's why the position right now is that, oh, okay, since they're not going to do it, perhaps, so that you don't throw the baby away with the bad water, let that clause be expunged, you understand? So that the other lofty contents of that bill will see the light of the day. So in that same posture of the National Assembly on this, because there are options. They can actually veto, you understand? They can override that veto. So if they're not doing that, we're also telling them, names have been sent to you. Please do the needful. You understand? Because essentially that's one of the reasons why we're here. Do the needful. Your constituents are crying. They're speaking all the time. All you needed to do, regardless of the body language of the presidency or the people who are behind this whole thing, is that you tell them that the people who sent you to the National Assembly are saying otherwise. We are just representing them. They brought us here. So that's what we're calling for, and that's what we keep reiterating all the time.
Well, we have to thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Early this morning, Mr. Samaila Musa, who is a national coordinator of Grassroots Mobilization Initiative and also a member of the Coalition of Northern Groups. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Early.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's flip this now to Lagos for our guest's closing comments.
Well, there you go. So what happens? What do you have in mind at the end of the day, whichever way this pendulum swings?
What I have in mind is that the president, we call him Your Excellency. He should be able to capture the mood of the country. He should be able to know what is the right thing to do. We should not wait for INEC, for the National Assembly to reject the list, because the National Assembly cannot dictate to the president who to nominate. But the president should be able to look at, for the good of the system, what should I do? And I think that's the right place to do, since the Electoral Act is not still in place the way it should be. And I also think the National Assembly, as a matter of urgency, should work on on the Electoral Act within this week and send it back to the president so the Nigerians will be calm. Today, the ruling party do not even know when they are going to have their convention. That tells you a lot. The PDP is in comatose, so we need to find out who are we going to elect as the next president of the world's most populous black country.
Well, that will form part of our conversation in just a moment, but Mr. Chukwuma is a legal practitioner. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, back in a moment. Stay with us.
Mr. President, that without prejudice to whatever will be the decision of the party, which we shall all abide by, that if the party throws the ticket open or the zone to southern part of Nigeria, that I believe that with what I put in place in the past 6 years plus, that I will be running for presidency on the platform of APC. So I told him, and of course, he believes that whoever that wants to run for president of this country must have to consult widely and go to all the leaders, and that we must do everything to remove ethnicity and our religion in our polity so that this country can grow. Let me also add that as the chairman of Southeast Governors Forum, that I support a political solution to our insecurity problems in the Southeast. And of course, I mentioned it to Mr. President. And so I believe strongly that Southeast, that proposing for political solutions should be able to engage the federal government. After all, there's always what is called out-of-court settlement. But it's for, our people and, our brother Kano to be willing, for us to truly engage so that we can find true peace in our region. Because the activities there, have destroyed a lot of the economy of Southeast. A lot of lives have been lost. And when we were shouting it that it wasn't going to benefit, because agitation shouldn't have gone that, way it did. Today, the matter has gone beyond them.
Welcome back. Well, yes, we're joined by His Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State and Chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, yeah, we know you went to the president to inform him of your intention to run to succeed him, as it were. But just a quick one, why is that really important, going to the president in the villa and telling him, do you want to contest? Because we know that there are other avenues where politicians can meet and discuss some of these things.
Chimbele, thank you very much, and good morning to you and your team. The issue wasn't just going to the president to ask him that I want to contest. There were so many other issues I actually went to discuss with Mr. President. This one was by the side.
Excellency?
Yeah, Chamberlain, can you hear me? So much echoes.
Yes, we can hear you, so we suspected that there might have been some channel noise. Can you still hear us?
I do hear you, but there is echo. It's speaking back to me, so
just give us a moment.
It's interrupting me.
Just one or two buttons, but we'll sort that out in just a couple of minutes, and that will be addressed. But yes, it was just trying to explain, because there are lots of questions concerning people who really don't understand why they all have to. It's like a pilgrimage, after the first one.
If you're someone that you believe in, faith and all that, it's you go to the place and you claim it as it were. So you wonder if that was the case. But it's good to know that he's said that there were other issues. So we would like to properly understand the context, because that seems to be the trend, as you have said.
Well, as we also rightly introduced him, he's chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. That hopefully is one of the issues that he raised with the president, because, I mean, for God's sake, with all of the issues that have been coming out around the Southeast, definitely some issues to be addressed. And you also heard him, talking about the, just before we brought him on in this program, when he was at State House, some of the things that he was saying about the release of one of the Southeasterners, with the federal government at this time. So that's one of the issues. But we cannot demonstrate the fact that it's election year. He is a governor most certainly there are so many issues to address with him.
Well, yeah, so let's get back to him. Your Excellency, can you hear us better now?
Yeah, I think I can. Like I said, Chamberlain, the echo is speaking back to me as I speak. It's difficult.
Okay, so we'll go to another break. Is this electoral now? Just checking.
Let me check.
If it's not now, it means it's okay.
Speak, then, hello?
It is better now, is it?
What I'm saying...
Go ahead, please.
Okay, you see, if I speak, then I have to wait because the echo is speaking back exactly what I said.
All right, I understand that. All right, just give us a moment. We'll go to break. We will be back. Welcome back. We're with His Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State and the Chairman, Southeast Governors Forum. Your Excellency, many wonder that, yes, no matter how well you may have done in Ebonyi State, it's a small state with due respect, and they wonder, so why do you think that you can govern Nigeria by vying for the office of the president?
Well, Chamberlain, thank you very much. But let me answer the first question. You said, you know, did I just go to see Mr. President only to tell him that I needed to contest for the seat of presidency? And the answer is no. I went there to discuss about the visit of Mr. President in March, and also discuss about political solution to our insecurity in Southeast. And also our airport project, to let him know that our airport project is going to be ready by May 2022, but we needed some financial assistance to buy the equipment.
Okay.
So the issue of running was by the side, and it was the last thing that I mentioned to him as the father of the nation and the father of our party.
What did he say to you?
He said to me what he said to other people.
Did he tell you that that's what he told other people?
Because I've listened to other people who said what he told them, so it's exactly what he told me.
Well, Your Excellency, your eventual announcement came 24 hours after the national leader of the APC also met with the president on that same issue, saying he went to discuss his ambition. So you come in 24 hours. A lot of people thought, okay, maybe that was a sign of respect to the national leader, saying, you go first, then I'll come after then. Is there a timetable for these things, really? Was that pre-planned or it just happened?
I think it just happened because when revered, you know, Asiwaju got his appointment, I didn't know. And when I sought for my own appointment, I'm sure he didn't know. So I can say it was coincidence.
Okay, but you didn't tell us what he told you. You assumed that that's what he told other people. Did those other people tell you what he told them, for instance?
Other people told you, Chamberlain, and other media people, what he told them. And so I listened to them, and I can compare and see exactly that what he told them is what he told me.
Okay, well, I assume that you've told Nigerians by telling the president, because Nigerians now know that you want to vie for that position. So why do you think Nigerians will accept you to be president?
I needed to accept my first. I needed to get conviction that I can do the job. And you say my state is a small state. Nigeria is going to develop by developing every small part of Nigeria.
And so if what God has done in Ebonyi State within 6 years plus could be replicated through the works of my hands in other parts of Nigeria, I think Nigeria that we dream of will come to be.
But, you know, Your Excellency, you also talked about the challenges that you face in the state and in the southeast, and those are the existing challenges. And also, some of the leaders who are indicating their intention, as you may have seen in some of the other dailies, people think, look, we need new faces, new ideas. So, to that extent, do you think that you've got new ideas, haven't been there? Because people will say, look, we've seen what you've done, but they still wonder if they can go with you as president.
Well, my position is to expose what I've done. My position is to be convinced within myself that I can do the job. My position is to believe that God is interested in me. And the rest is up to the people to make their choice.
Well, one other question. We'll come to that, Your Excellency, to follow up on that particular one. But the issue that comes to mind for me, listening to you, is, well, one of the issues. Why should Nigerians trust the APC further, given the plethora of complaints that have, you know, trailed the government of the APC at the center? Why should anyone want to say, I mean, we want to continue to have an APC government govern us at the federal center, at the center of federal government?
What kind of complaints do you talk about?
Your Excellency, you know it all.
There is no complaint that is coming out right now that has not been the same since PDP took over. So it's the issue of if it is economy, you have to, you know, analyze the economy and find out whether the economy is growing or not. But let me complain, Chamberlain, that the problem with your studio is still not solved, you know, and it makes my contribution very difficult.
Well, first, we need to apologize for that, and I mean, appreciate you for, in spite of that, and still responding to our question. So we'll take a quick break again to resolve that. Perhaps something is still open in one of the theaters. So please give us a minute. We'll fix that and come back to you so we can have a robust conversation, because this is a big deal and Nigerians are really thirsting to hear what you have in store. So please stay with us and we'll be back.
Your Excellency, we're going to go again, which we always do, hoping that it's not going to be one of those days. But then we did ask you that what is it that you're going to do differently as president that will make any difference given the situation the country is in now?
Well, we are in a nation faced with a lot of insecurity challenges. You know, the economic issues, you know, there is, you know, this corruption issue and unpatriotic acts, but, you know, by some of we leaders. And I think that all of them are tied together. And so you must start as Mr. President by engaging. And you asked me about the complaints of the society against APC government. But the question is, all this that I've mentioned, have they not been there before Mr. President took over? And so when you have a system that is already collapsed and you're making your efforts and people have a very high expectation and very, you know, the spirit of suspicion, you know, against all leaders, it's very difficult to appreciate the efforts being made and the successes achieved. So I think that is by engaging.
Go ahead, please.
You know, we have to engage ourselves. We have to engage ourselves. And like I said in some of other discussions, we have to decide as a nation whether we need to rescue this nation by making some sacrifices. If we can kill corruption in this country to a very large extent, then the issue of insecurity, the issue of economic growth, they will receive very good attention, and this country will become great again.
So what exactly, okay, there are a couple of things that you spoke about in terms of the engagement and sacrifices, but if you could speak to us about those issues, what specifically do you mean by engagement and the sacrifices?
Well, you see, in this country, I find it, very funny for people at certain age in this country that are still, fighting so hard, for money. I thought that at a certain age that we should be making efforts to reconcile with God and be grateful to Him for the opportunities given to us. So it is important that we begin to engage, to say, look, even if you're successful and your children are not successful, you are not successful. So we begin to let people know the true meaning of life. Nobody goes to the grave with this money, but it's your legacies that will speak for you, speak for your children, and for your generation. So this is the kind of engagement that we need to do so that people will understand that everything is not about money, and that every position given to us by God as leaders, God will ask us for accountability, of what we did with such positions.
So our viewers can properly understand the context in which you speak, Governor. What do you mean by, those people who you say are still concerned about money? It's hard to actually understand that context. So if you could shed more light on that so people can properly understand.
What I mean is that in this country, there is no age limit by which we can say we have retired. We tend to be pursuing money till the end of our, stay on earth in Nigeria. That's what I mean.
To eliminate some of the, ideas that might be coming up or get you to confirm them. So are you saying that perhaps there should be an age limit to people vying for those positions, such that, okay, if you're at this certain age, then what we should be concerned with is not, this kind of position, but providing another sort of, leadership in another area? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not just talking about political leadership, no. Generally, at certain age, if you are in commerce, for example, you're a businessman, you have companies, at a certain age in your life, you should be able to say, look, I need to retire, and then give opportunities for your children. That's what I'm saying. It cuts across all, sphere of life.
So is there currently anyone running that you think this person should retire and allow the children, as you referenced, to step up? Is there anyone you have seen so far?
Not in my mind at all.
Right. Earlier on, you talked about some of the things that were in the previous administration that are still there now. And I'd like you to specifically mention those things because, there are various examples of how things have changed over time. In terms of security, for example. At that time, there weren't talks about banditry and kidnapping on such a high scale and consistently. One of the dailies used to have this countdown of various schools that children had been kidnapped. So that was not there. In terms of unemployment, it's now 33.3%. That was not the case then. And there are various examples that will be cited. So what are those things in particular which you say were present then and are still present now, that things have not changed?
Well, there's this saying that says that everything has life, has the tendency to grow. The seed of corruption was sown in this country and it was growing. And so you cannot say to what extent it will grow. And corruption is the business of everybody. Fighting it is the business of everybody. If Mr. President, gets his allocation and he has good intention to build a way, to build roads, to build other utilities, and such intentions are compromised, down the line, how will Mr. President be accountable? I can tell you that, before Mr. President came to power, we already had this issue of, cheatings in primary schools. Cheatings, what they call expo, So it's a corruption seed that was sown for a very long time. The same thing with insecurity. But what we needed to do as a nation is to find out what Mr. President has done, fighting these evil seeds that were sown in the past. And I think that Mr. President has done appreciable very, very well, in fighting corruption. He has no brother or sister or party man, in fighting corruption. And I praise his courage. In terms of economy, he has also done tremendously very well. Because I can take Ebonyi State, for example. What do we have from the federal government, from right now that we didn't have before? And so for me, it is the indices that, we count and measure, because I know such are also replicated in the various states and at the federal level. So I think the APC government is being demarketed very badly, and her members are not helping matters, because if you do not say what you have done, nobody is going to say what you have done.
Well, Your Excellency, staying with this issue of corruption that you talked about, there are a number of, if we go to, thankfully Twitter is back now. If you go, at least just type in corruption in Nigeria on Twitter, I'm pretty sure you're going to find some things that negate quite a number of things that you have said now, especially in the fight against corruption. There are those who are saying, isn't it the job of anyone who takes the job that you are vying for now to ensure that the system works effectively and sustainably to checkmate these actions of corruption, as opposed to what we have on our hands now? It is one thing to have the report of what Mr. President is doing. It's another thing entirely to have that experience. So given that, would you say that we have what it takes as a nation, starting from the presidency, to fight this corruption? And how seriously are we at fighting it? How seriously are we fighting it?
Yeah, that's why I say that it is, important to evaluate the method we have deployed so far, and judge whether we should not deploy other methods in fighting this corruption. And I think that engagement is very important. What we leaders come to the television, and even known leaders and even the masses come to tell you, for me, it doesn't represent the truth, The truth is between us and God, what we do with the resources that God, gave to us, to develop the people. You could be very corrupt and you come to the pages of newspapers and, be hiding and be criticizing Mr. President. That is not the truth. The truth is that we need to engage, because corruption in this country has gone beyond what the ordinary man even knows about. And that's why leaders in this country, whatever efforts you're making, to be different is not appreciated. The society believes that every leader in this country is a thief, but that's not totally true.
Well, changing that perception would probably have to depend on what those leaders themselves do and how they comport themselves. But when you talk about the need to engage who and by whom?
We start by engaging the media. There must be self-assessment, because just like Joseph told his brothers in the Bible, he said that God has sent me to prepare the future for you. We have to know very well that everything we do, whether you are in leadership position or you are being led, that we account for what you have, done. And so for me, there must be self-assessment. There must be a point that we as a country must sit together and say, do we begin to do things rightly? When anything comes before you, you will always ask, what is there for me?
So what would you do about corruption that has not been done before?
You see, we need to strengthen our compromised and weak institutions. And that's by engaging. You cannot tell me that, every National Assembly member, is free of corruption, that every governor is free of corruption, that the media houses, they are free of corruption, that the judiciary. So you need to engage. And there is only one agenda that you will bring to the table. Do we agree to kill corruption and move this country forward? Do we agree to secure future for our children? This is very important. And if it is the general consensus, all cards must be up, And I believe strongly that when you do this kind of engagement, and the masses, the nation Nigeria, they see that you are not corrupt, and you are treating everybody with the same template, I think things will begin to move. I believe so strongly.
So if you say we can't tell you that every governor is free of corruption, are you free of corruption?
You judge yourself, Chamberlain.
No, I'm not a governor. You are the governor. You said, I can't tell you that every governor is free of corruption. So that's why I ask, are you free of corruption?
Chamberlain, are you also free of corruption? Because I say the media houses too. So it is self-assessment, and so it is not correct for me to just believe that we are angels. So everybody is involved one way or the other, and we should all sit down together to look at this matter.
Well, Your Excellency, you want to be president, and Nigerians are watching and listening to you, so if they see that you're dodging the question, don't you think that would be a negative signal that you won't answer the questions so that they can understand your thinking or where your mind is about corruption?
You want me to answer it the way you want, or I should answer it the way I feel? I'm answering it the way I feel, and it is wrong, Chamberlain, for me to say that we have weak institutions and then we exonerate, one sector of the society. No, it is for all the institutions to do assessment and come to the table, and we say, yes, we want to, rebuild this nation. This is very important.
Your Excellency, I'd like to know if you feel threatened by the defection of some other governors from the PDP to the APC.
Threatened? I feel happy rather than being threatened.
I'm asking that in the light of your ambition. Do you think that it threatens your ambition in any way? Because some people will say that perhaps some of these other governors who are defecting to your party as well also are nursing the ambition to be president. Do you think in any way it threatens your own ambition?
Not at all. You know very well that my ambition is in the hand of God. And one thing we do not know, and I continue to quote, is that by strength shall no man prevail. Power might belong to God, but human beings say first tend to negate that. So the more we have more governors into APC, the more chances we have, to win the election and to also continue the project of Mr. President, the project of Nigeria, from where Mr. President will stop by 2023.
I do not know if you've seen the papers for today, but on the front page of New Telegraph, we have the story, how PDP plans to exploit defection cases against APC. That's according to their own internal investigation. It's talking about South-South Governors Connection, and your name is mentioned here on the front page, Ayade, Umahi, Matawale, endangered. Do you fear any endangerment as a result of whatever cases the PDP might institute against governors like yourself who have defected from their ranks into the APC?
Well, the matter is already in court. I have no fear, but one thing I know very well is that I know the conditions upon which a governor, elected governor, can leave, his seat. Is by death, is by impeachment, is by resignation. And so our Constitution has not specified any other condition upon which an elected governor can vacate his seat. So it's a judicial process, and we test it in line with the Constitution.
Okay, we'll see how that, eventually pans out. But as we get into the year, we understand that your party, the new party which you've joined, is finding it very difficult to organize a convention in February. Today is February, beg your pardon, we're in January now. Let me see now. Today is the 17th of January, and as we speak, a date is yet to be picked in February for the convention which had been planned since last year. Are you worried about that?
Not at all. February remains February from the meeting we had yesterday, and from what Mr. President told the nation after the chairman of caretaker met with him. So nobody is going beyond February from the meeting we had yesterday. But it's not for us to announce, it's for the working committee to announce.
All right. Let me just come in now, Your Excellency. So there's always a talk about the year before election. We'll usually witness a lull in governance proper as the political actors focus on the election. And, I mean, that's been the fear. In fact, people say that the term of a governor or president essentially is not 4 years that you think. It's perhaps between 2 and 3 years. So how are you going to juggle this together? You have governance in Ebonyi State, which is, I mean, your major priority. And then you have this goal that you're trying to reach with the presidency. How will you do it that one will not affect the other, but the more important one will not be affected?
Well, for me, the most important one is the first calling, the first assignment that God gave to me, which is about a project. And if God sees that I've done this very well and I'm faithful, then God will enthrone me for the second assignment. But let me say that from the airport, anytime I travel, I go straight to my project site. I'm in full control of all my projects. I'm in full control of my programs. And I've made it very much known to the stakeholders of Ebonyi State that there is no amount of vying for presidency that is going to affect the Ebonyi project. I know it is an added responsibility and, will be more challenging. But if God calls you, he will equip you. So I think we are in total control of the development of our state.
So will it be fair, as we wind down, those asking that if you're vying for such position, maybe you should step aside so you can focus on the campaigning, which is going to be very rigorous. Is that a fair proposition?
Well, I do not know. But honestly, I'm worried about the election year, generally. It's a lot of distractions. And if you look at the monarchic, countries, you find out there is much more stability, there is much more development. Because even when you don't care as a governor, the society will care for you. They will roll out drums for you. They will tell you you're the best and so on and so forth. So it's a lot of distractions, But I won't advocate for elected governor to resign because it's not in line with our constitution. And if you prefer that to happen, then you have to now do another town hall meeting where Nigerians will have to speak their minds.
So if this is not zoned to the southeast, will it be going for the Senate?
My future is in the hand of God. So, and it is taking such decisions now is also distracting.
So are we sure that we're not going to hear tomorrow you saying, well, my people have said I should go for Senate? Won't that happen tomorrow?
We have a project in our hand, and God has not given me two projects, I'm at peace with contesting for the presidency of this country. And so there is nothing else that is in my mind, and there's nothing else in the mind of my people. And so we have to get to the end of this. God is leading us. So if we get there and God changes his mind and says, okay, you do this, we are all pursuing the hearts of God.
All right, then, His Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State and Chairman, Southeast Governors Forum, thank you very much indeed for your time today.
Chamberlain, thank you very much, even though the echoes was a major challenge to me. But we managed.
Thank you. Well, there you go. That is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Kayode Okikiole.
I'm Ayamakide. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
And I'm Maope Ogun Yusuf.